I feel like this is a good introduction to After Effects to turn this footage that I took in my local park around late August. We're gonna make it look like it's the middle of January. Make it snow and stuff. So that said, while it's downloading, go ahead and open up After Effects, and we'll make a new composition. Also, just want to let you know, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me and ask away. Here, let me just... Yeah, I want to delete the composition. New composition for footage, and then you can just find the footage and you just double click on it. Because I'll just make a composition based on the footage that you're using as your base. Then you just hit import. And ignore the fact that I have two of the same footage on my left here. That's because I just made two different compositions. Before we get started, I do want to explain the layout of After Effects a bit. Over here on the left is our resources tab. Think of like all your footage, all your images, your compositions, everything will go here as a resource where you can just drag it onto the scene or down here. Down in the bottom is your layers tab. This is where all the magic happens, where you mess with keyframes, scaling, transforms, all of that. Here in the center is our viewport. Just shows our footage. I'd recommend this drop down here. This is your resolution. I would recommend dropping it down to half, because what that will do is it'll just make After Effects work a little faster, because it's only rendering half the pixels every frame. This will not impact your final render. This is just only while you're working. If you do a full, it'll become a lot more detailed while you work, but they'll take longer to render or preview each frame. And over here is just your zoom. On the right side here, you'll have your tabs for like info, audio, effects, and presets. Like character text options. Most of the time, whenever like if I were to use the text tool, I'll automatically open up the character tab. For today, though, we're going to be working in effects and presets. You can also find effects through the drop-down menu up top here. So let's get started. We're going to start off by taking our footage here, select it in the Layers tab, and press Ctrl-D to duplicate it. Because what we're going to do is, on this footage here, in the effects and presets, we're going to look up something called tint to make it, and just drag it on top of the scene. It'll make it look grayscaled, which is what we want. Because what we're going to do is, if we click this map to white box, we want to lower the white a little bit, because this is going to be the color of our snow. Snow is not exactly a pure white. It's almost like a grayish white, so you can just move it down a little bit for color accuracy and just leave it there. Up next, we're going to add a levels effect and also drag it on top. This is our contrast channel to make things darker or brighter. And what we want to do is push these arrows together, not those ones, to make the white like stand out. It will get a little dark. That's good. Just something like this to make that white pop out. Then we're just going to add a fast box blur effect. Drag it on top. And what I like to do is I go with a 0.2 blur radius and a single iteration. Because the reason why we're adding the blur is because snow isn't just very solid. It's kind of fuzzy, if I were to describe it in a way. And this is what we're going to do with it. We're going to add one more effect to it, and that is a glow effect. You can just drag and drop it up top. And what I like to do is a glow radius of 4 and an intensity of 0.3. Get something like that. All right. So how we can make the so we're gonna change so we're gonna make it so all the black is now gone for the most part. Down here in the layers tab, there's this drop down called mode. If you don't have this, there may be a button down here that says toggle switches and modes. You will just have to click that first. It's not on my After Effects right now because this box is wider than usual. I have no idea why. But we're going to take this drop down, the mode one, and change the modified footage to lighten. And it doesn't exactly look like it at first. And if that's the case, you may have to go back to levels on your modified footage and just push these arrows left and right until you get what you want. That looks a lot better. I think I like it there. It is bright. Okay. So we're going to actually mess with our original footage real quick. We're going to drop another tint on it. So just take tint and drop it onto the original footage. We're not going to mess with the colors here. We're just going to drop down the amount of tint to 35%. And this will just reduce the summer colors and make it not look as bright. Excuse me. All right. Then we can click right back onto our modified footage. We're going to click back on a modified footage because now we're going to mess with the trees here a bit. Up here, you'll have a bunch of tools that you can use, such as the pen tool, the rectangle tool, type tool, brush, clone stamp eraser. We're actually going to use the rectangle tool because what we're going to do is drag a rectangle over the top of the scene. Like this. And what this will do is create a mask. What a mask is a section of, let's just say, we have two clips laid on top of each other. What the mask is saying only show footage inside the rectangle. You can also invert it to do the opposite effect, but we're just going to leave it as is on the inverting. What we're going to do is click this drop down by your mask in your layer panel and go to subtract, which will also invert it. But we're doing that because we're going to feather the mask, which is to basically stretch it out. You can do that by, with your mask layer selected, press F on your keyboard and it'll open up mask feather. And you just want to drag this to the right to give some of the trees back their winter effect. Because all that we were doing is reducing how bright it was up there. And it could be a pretty big feather too. But if you need good number, I think 2000 looks nice. And we're already kind of getting our snow effect. It's on the ground, and if you look up in the trees, the leaves are snow topped. It looks like an early summer snow. All right. Now we're going to mess with the background here a little bit behind the trees. Go ahead and select your modified footage. Press Control D to duplicate it, and then press M to open up your mask. Because we're going to delete the mask in the new modified footage. And you can just delete it by pressing the delete button on your keyboard. Then we're going to do the same on the original footage. Then move the original footage tint back up to 100%. All right. With this duplicate original footage selected, we're going to take our levels tool and drop it on top. And what we just want to do, make the trees very dark. We want to make them black. Also, just want to mention this. If you want to solo a layer, you can press this dot here on the layers panel to completely solo it. So you can focus on that layer exclusively. Okay. So with this footage here, we're going to take our modified 2, we're going to take our original 2 footage. There's a drop down called Trick Matte or T Matte. I'm going to drop that down and change it to a Luma inverted matte. You can go into your modified footage and just delete that glow. Oh, yeah, switch the original 2 footage to lighten. That's where it was. I apologize. The reason why we did that with the alpha inverted map, because it creates this like foggy effect in the background now. Wintry effect, because the light bouncing off the snow into the sky. All right. Let's make some fog. Layer new solid. Sorry about that. Then create a rectangle on the top half. And just press F and feather it out to create this like blurry fog effect. You can also rename the solid layer to fog. After that, we're going to take our Luma matte layer, or modified tube footage, and change the fog to Luma matte. Okay, we're almost done. So now if we play through our footage, we get this almost like a summer winter effect. So I shouldn't say January, but almost more like a September snow, which is, God, I wish that would have happened. Go ahead and select everything in your layer panel, right click, and click pre-compose. I'm just going to name it snow. What pre-composing does is it'll kind of squish everything into one layer. So you can stick effects pretty much on like every single layer at once. It also saves resources. If you wanted to go back and edit individual layers inside of it, you can just double click on the pre-composition and it'll create a new tab up here. And if you want to go back to the layer that only has the pre-composed one, just click the layer that you were on earlier. The reason why we're doing this, though, is because we're going to create a couple more effects to it. In the effects and presets, we're going to look up turbulent noise. and drop it onto the snow. What we're going to do with this is we're going to create wind. Because when the wind is blowing with its snow, it's going to pick up the snow, unless it's really sticky snow. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn down the opacities to the point you can just barely see it. I'm going to set a little higher, but I'm going to set it lower later. You can also mess with the fractal type to get different kinds of winds. I personally like dynamic. You can also turn up the complexity if you want, although it doesn't seem to be doing much. We actually just want to mess with the scale of transform. So go ahead and scale it up a bit. And select, and at the beginning of your scene, go ahead and hit the stopwatch to set a keyframe for offset turbulence. Go to the end of your footage and just drag this over. Because if we go back to the beginning of our footage, this is going to move across the screen now. After that, we can turn down the opacity a little more. If we play, you can kind of see it, that snow effect. You can also mess with the verticality if you want. Just go by to the end of your footage and just drag the second number up. Or left. You drag it left. We're going to add one more effect. We're going to look up the CC snowfall effect. And we can just drag it on top of our footage. So we can make it actively snow. So what this will do is when you play our footage, you can see a very subtle snow. We can also mess around with it and make it change with the wind. So we turn up the wind here, way up. It'll make it blow in the direction of the wind. You also turn up the variation to make it go in different directions. You could turn up the size to make it show up on the screen there. You can also turn up variation on the size. But essentially, that's our entire video for the snow effect.